This is Iris Kraemer. I'm here with my mother, Marilyn Tanney, at the Coves Apartments in Jacksonville, Florida. Today is June 5th, 2012. We're here to film an oral history video for the Jacksonville Jewish Foundation. Mother, do I have your permission to make this recording?
Yes, you do.
Could you start by telling me where and when you were born?
I was born on June 12th, 1928, in the Bronx, New York.
And where were your ancestors from?
My mother's family came from Poland. My father's family came from Russia.
Okay. Once you hold this up, can you tell us their names?
This is my grandmother, Ray, and my grandfather, Harry. My mother is the youngest in the middle. This is my uncle, and this is my aunt, with 3 children.
Let's see this one. Okay. And this one?
This is my father's family. This is my father. This is his mother. This is his father. My father became an orphan at a very young age, and he was brought up by his 5 sisters.
Okay. How, when, and why did your ancestors come to the United States?
They wanted to live in America. They had heard such wonderful stories. My grandfather used to tell me that he heard that the streets in the Lower East Side were paved with gold. And he came first. He tried to get a little bit settled, and then he sent for my grandmother and the 3 children. And they all lived on the Lower East Side. My grandfather welcomed all his friends that came from Poland, and they made room for them in their small apartment, even if they had to put things on the floor. He was known to be very, very good-natured, and he wanted them to be happy and make a life for themselves.
And your father's family?
My father was brought up by his 5 sisters, and he came to America at the age of 9, and he went to night school. When he came, he couldn't speak a word of English, and he didn't want people to notice the words that he learned with a strong accent. He wanted to make sure he would speak almost perfectly. So he went to night school until he achieved fluency in English.
Is there some story about a banana that I recall?
My mother told me stories. When they came to Ellis Island, they had some food with them, and my Aunt Bella and my Uncle Manny and my mother were given bananas. And I believe it was my mother, the youngest, who didn't know that she had to take the peel off, and she was wondering why it was so hard to digest the banana, but she finally peeled it off and ate it.
Who were you named after?
I'm named after my father's mother. My Hebrew name is Malka. My English name is Marilyn. And that's it.
What was the place you grew up in like?
I grew up in the West Bronx, in a middle-class neighborhood. Apartment buildings. There were no little houses. It was all apartment buildings, and none of them had elevators. In order to get to our apartments, we were on the 3rd floor. We climbed 2 set of stairs, and we were near various stores. It was very close to shopping. They had little markets, and they had individual grocery stores and kosher butchers. And not too far away from us was a movie theater, which was, I think, 25 cents to see the Saturday shows.
Where did your grandparents live and your cousins?
All of my family, all the cousins and close relatives, lived in various boroughs of New York. Nobody lived out west, nobody lived other than in New York.
What languages were spoken in your home?
In my home, we spoke only English. In my grandparents' home, they spoke Yiddish and English.
Can you recall some newspapers and books that were read in your home?
In my home, we read the New York Post. In my grandparents' home, they read the Forward, and mostly the Forward, and occasionally an English newspaper.
What influence do you feel your grandparents had on your life?
We were very, very close. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, slept over, and shared delicious foods. My grandmother was an excellent cook, and all her Jewish delicacies, some of her recipes, were handed down to my mother, to me, and to my daughter.
Can you name some of those foods?
She made her own delicious gefilte fish, of course, matzo balls, krepla, delicious chicken soup, and her recipe for brisket was handed down to my mother, to me, and to you.
And what was the kind of unique way your family had of eating matzah?
Well, there was a special apparatus. It was a wired holder for the matzah to fit into, and we called it I still make it today, and so do you. We wet the matzah and put it into this contraption and heated it over a pot of boiling water, and then removed it and put whipped cream cheese on it. It was quite good.
Mm-hmm. What was it about your family that felt Jewish?
There was always Yiddishkeit, a little bit of conversation in Yiddish. We had records, phonograph records, with interesting, with very melodic Jewish tunes. And we celebrated all the Jewish holidays, especially the 2 Seders. Everyone got together. And I remember my cousin would cut up with the seltzer bottles, and my grandfather would say, no, don't do that because it makes a mess.
When you mention Yiddishkeit, can you talk about some Yiddish performers that you and your family like?
Well, on occasion, my grandparents would take me to the Lower East Side to the Yiddish theater. And the one that stands out in my mind most was Menashe Skolnick. He wore his pants way up, not on the waist, but way above the waist. And he had wonderful material where everybody broke up laughing because he was so talented. And also on the radio, we listened to Molly Goldberg. She had wonderful stories to tell that had so much meaning, and that impressed me a lot.
Was your family observant? Did you go to synagogue?
Mostly I attended with my grandfather and grandmother, and when they went to worship, we would travel to be with them on the high holidays. And of course, again, with the Seders, the major holidays, the minor holidays, we didn't observe as much.
How about keeping kosher?
My grandmother kept a kosher kitchen. My mother was not strictly kosher, but always bought only kosher meat and chickens, and I did the same. And now you keep a kosher home, and I'm very proud of that fact.
Do you recall your family ever experiencing anti-Semitism?
Yes. My uncle had a jewelry store in a section of Manhattan called Yorkville. And it so happened in Yorkville, they had a Nazi party with meetings. My grandfather helped him in the jewelry store, and they had an apartment within walking distance to the jewelry store. And one early evening, my grandfather started to walk to the neighborhood where his apartment was. And 2 or 3 men were following him, threw him down and beat him unmercifully, where they had to call an ambulance and police were involved, and he was taken to a hospital until he recovered. And the police interrogated these people that did this terrible thing, and they said, "Oh, we're very, very sorry. It's a case of mistaken identity," which was absolutely false. It was definitely done because they knew that my grandfather was a Jew.
As a child or young woman, did you have role models or heroines?
Well, one comes to mind. I had a lot of respect for Eleanor Roosevelt. I thought she was a wonderful first lady. She was brilliant and kind and had a wonderful nature, and I thought the world of her.
How did your family feel about FDR?
Well, we admired him and we thought he was a great president, and he did some wonderful things. But many years later, we realized that he was not a friend to the Jewish people, and it makes us sad.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was very little girl, I decided I wanted to be a teacher, and I did become a teacher. I taught in New York City for a few years, and then tragedy hit, and I was out on maternity leave, and my first little girl lived until the age of 2, and unfortunately she became very ill, and she passed away. And during the Shiva, I decided, my family and I, that we should try to start all over again. And I saw such pitiful eyes looking at me when they came to visit me, the principal and all the teachers. And I said to my husband, I think if we go to a new place and start over again, maybe we will have a better chance of surviving. So we all, my parents, my husband and myself, we decided to take the car, take whatever we could, and put our furniture in storage, and we started out for Miami Beach. And we settled there, and of course, the doctor had told me that I should try to have another child as soon as possible, but it took a while, and I finally did have my wonderful Iris. That's you.
So you took some time off from teaching?
Yes, I was on an extended maternity leave, and I didn't teach until you were about three and a half. I substituted in the temple school called Beth Torah. And when you were of kindergarten age, I had a position of teaching kindergarten at the YMHA, and you were in preschool, and I taught kindergarten for a year. And then someone knew that I was looking for a position, so I was hired at the Lehrman Day School on Miami Beach, named after Rabbi Lehrman. He was really world-renowned, and I taught there for over 25 years.
Did you have any Jewish education?
Not really, but I learned. I had an aide. The very first year I was employed at Lehrman Day School, my aide was fluent in Hebrew. She taught me the 4 questions. She taught me how to run the preschool Seder, which I did, and I learned all the Hebrew songs, and I was known at the school as the singing teacher. I taught a lot of my children through music, because that's universal.
And do you still sing?
Yes, Here at the Coves, I joined the Choraleers, and in fact, today I rehearsed with them because I accepted a solo. We're doing a tribute to Johnny Mercer next Monday and Tuesday, and I'm part of the program.
So in addition to singing with your children in school, what other things did you enjoy most about teaching?
I enjoyed to see how some of them came, their language was not developed. Some of them came and spoke Spanish and didn't know a word of English, but through music and through my teaching, they became fluent in English. And what really thrilled me most is after I retired, and I would go to the shopping center at Aventura, and I'd hear my name, Miss Tanney, and I knew it had to do with school. And I would see these girls and boys who were adults. Some were engaged, some were getting married, and they were delighted to see me. If they were with their family, they said, "We'll never forget you, Miss Tanney, because you gave our children the love of education and a very good sense of being worthy, and it was very gratifying to see that I made a mark on their lives."
What made you decide to enroll me in a Jewish day school?
Actually, it was because I was hired there, and you were supposed to go into kindergarten. But when I said, there was only one kindergarten at the time, I said, I will not take this position if Iris is going to be in my class. I just didn't think it was the right thing. And because of your birth date and you were so bright, you went into first grade, and I did get the kindergarten class.
Did you ever personally experience anti-Semitism?
When you were pretty young, I don't know exactly, but you were a young child, we decided to go on a family trip to North Carolina from Miami Beach. So we took the trip, and we were going to stay in a place for a week or so for a vacation. And before we settled in that place, we stopped at a restaurant near Hendersonville, and the location was Lake Lure. And we went into this restaurant. It was quite crowded. Everybody was eating, being served. We were handed menus, and not one server came near us to ask what we wanted. We sat there for minimum 45 minutes or longer, and we put the menus down. We said, let's go. They didn't serve us because they knew we were Jewish.
Did you ever feel wary about traveling to other towns outside of Miami after that experience?
Not really. I never had any other experience like that, fortunately.
Could you describe your relationship with Israel?
Quite a number of years ago, my friend said, you must come with me and join Naamat USA, which is the largest female organization in Israel. I said, no, I'm not an organization lady, but I never regretted it. I became an officer. I made wonderful friends. And in 1999, Naamat was having a convention, and my children presented me with a gift to make the trip to Israel as a 70th birthday gift. I shall never forget my 10 or 11 days visiting Israel. I feel like Jerusalem is very special and like fairyland. I have it in my heart. I will never forget my few days in Jerusalem. We did visit Tel Aviv, and Tel Aviv reminded me very much of Miami Beach with the palm trees, and we were at a hotel facing the Mediterranean and the boardwalk, and we took tours on our own, my friends and I, and we really saw the main parts of Israel. I have Israel in my heart constantly.
How did you influence your family after your trip to Israel?
I had a daily diary, which I read to them when they visited me in Miami, in Aventura. And I said to you, please, you must go with the family and see what I saw. Israel is special. They have accomplished so much. It's a delightful place to see. And you listened and you went, and you have become very involved with Federation, and your whole life has changed since you have this love for Israel.
Did you sense any of that love for Israel from your parents?
Not as much as, of course, they were very proud of their heritage, but we weren't basically involved with too much religion. My father used to say, my religion is in my heart.
What are your hopes for the future of Israel and the Jewish people today?
I hope that Israel will remain the state of Israel. I hope and pray that they can live in peace and not have to fear the bombings and what has been going on for years, and lately it's not too much better. I want to have shalom in Israel for all the Jewish people.
What do you think are the greatest threats to the future of American Jews?
I think with assimilation, there's so many intermarriages, and if a person is a non-Jew and converts, that's a plus. But with the intermarriages and the amount of them, I fear that we will lose some of the numbers of Jews that we really need. We can't lose some. We need to gain some.
Do you think you influenced me to marry Jewish?
Oh, I think so. Very much so.
Oh, okay. So how do you feel about the world today compared to the world you grew up in?
The world today is governed by electronics. And when I was growing up, we had a radio. We didn't have TV. The first TV I witnessed was at the 1939 World's Fair. So the world today is entirely different.
All right. You can hold up these pictures of your parents as adults. So who are the people in that picture?
This is a picture of my father, my mother, my grandmother, myself, and my grandfather. This is a picture of my father, your grandfather, who was a wonderful, wonderful man.
Do you know where you were when that picture was taken?
It looks like we were visiting somewhere. I don't know where.
So let's talk about the future. What do you see in your grandparents, your parents, and yourself that was transmitted to me that you're hoping will be transmitted to the future?
Well, as far as character, they were all very, very good people. Their delight was in helping others. My mother, if somebody was ill or in a hospital, she would do anything to help the family. My grandparents were known to be very, very kind. My father lived with us for a while, and in the condo in North Miami Beach, He was on the board of directors, and everyone knew him and said, "Oh, this is the man that helps us so much when we move in." He was kind and loving and just a great person.
And what values are important for you to share with your descendants?
The values of just be true to yourself, be kind, be respectful, always remember that you're a Jew no matter what. Just be a wonderful, wonderful woman or man.
And is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think I've completed everything.
Thank you.